Hello and welcome to our study of Romeo and Juliet. We are currently in Act 3, Scene 1, and this particular scene takes place in a public place. Let's listen in.
Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 3, Scene 1, a public place. Enter Mercutio, Benvolio, page, and servants.
I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the Capulets abroad, and if we meet, we shall not scape a brawl. For now, these hot days is the mad blood stirring.
Thou art like one of these fellows that, when he enters the confines of a tavern, clasps me his sword upon the table, and says, God send me no need of thee, and, by the operation of the second cup, draws him on the drawer, when indeed there is no need.
Am I like such a fellow?
Come, come, thou art as hot a jack in thy mood as any in Italy, and as soon moved to be moody, and as soon moody to be moved.
And what too?
Nay, and there were two such, we should have none shortly, for one would kill the other. Why, thou wilt quarrel with a man that hath a hair more or a hair less in his beard than thou hast. Thou wilt quarrel with a man for cracking nuts, having no other reason but because thou hast hazel eyes. What eye but such an eye would spy out such a quarrel? Thy head is as full of quarrels as an egg is full of meat, and yet thy head hath been beaten as addle as an egg for quarrelling. Thou hast quarrelled with a man for coughing in the street, because he hath wakened thy dog that hath lain asleep in the sun. Didst thou not fall out with a tailor for wearing his new doublet before Easter? With another for tying his new shoes with an old riband? And yet thou wilt tutor me from quarrelling.
An I were apt to quarrel as thou art, any man should buy the fee sample of my life for an hour and a quarter.
The fee simple. Oh, simple.
By my head, here come the Capulets.
By my heel, I care not.
Enter Tybalt and others.
Follow me close, for...
Okay, we're going to pause really quick. So we have Benvolio and Mercutio talking and basically saying, hey, it's hot outside and probably there might be a fight. Mercutio says, oh, who cares? And really here, Benvolio, as we know earlier, is kind of this character that is really not one to pick fights. And yet Mercutio here is more than ready to accuse Benvolio of being that way, saying, oh, you'll fight with anyone. Which is ironic because we know that's not how Benvolio is. Here's the problem, though. Here comes Tybalt, and we know that Tybalt is someone who does love to fight. And also that Tybalt, in the earlier scenes of this play, has threatened to fight Romeo multiple times. He threatened to do so at the party. He promised that it would be coming. And then he also sent a letter to Romeo, which we can presume is a challenge for a fight. So, let's hear what happens as Tybalt enters the scene.
For I will speak to them. Gentlemen, good den, a word with one of you.
And but one word with one of us? Couple it with something. Make it a word and a blow.
You shall find me apt enough to do that, sir, and you will give me occasion.
Could you not take some occasion without giving?
Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo.
Consort? What, dost thou make us minstrels? And thou make minstrels of us look to hear nothing but discords. Here's my fiddlestick. Here's that shall make you dance. Zounds, consort!
We talk here in the public haunt of men. Either withdraw unto some private place, and reason coldly of your grievances, or else depart. Here all eyes gaze on us.
Men's eyes were made to look, and let them gaze. I will not budge for no man's pleasure.
Alright, here, let's pause really quick. We see that Benvolio is saying, hey, let's not get in a fight, because Tybalt's already picking, at Mercutio and Benvolio. And Benvolio is saying, everybody's eyes are looking at us. Now, if you guys recall in the first act, Prince Aeschylus has promised that if the Capulets and Montagues fight again, the punishment will be death. So, it sounds like they're about to fight, which if they do fight, what's the punishment? death. Probably not a good idea, but let's see what happens. Ooh, we see that Romeo enters, and we know that can't be good.
Aye.
Well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man.
Enter Romeo.
But I'll be hanged, sir, if he wear your livery. Marry, go before to the field. He'll be your follower. Your worship, in that sense, may call him man.
Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain.
Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. Villain am I none. Therefore farewell. I see thou know'st me not.
Boy, this shall not excuse the injuries that thou hast done me. Therefore turn and draw.
I do protest I never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise, till thou shalt know the reason of my love. And so, good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as mine own, be satisfied.
Oh, calm, dishonourable, vile submission. Alla stoccata carries it away.
Draws.
Tybalt, you rat-chaser, will you walk?
What wouldst thou have with me?
Good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives. That I mean to make bold withal, and, as you shall use me hereafter, dry beat the rest of the 8. Will you pluck your sword out of his pitcher by the ears? Make haste, lest mine be about your ears ere it be out.
I am for you.
Drawing.
Gentle Mercutio, put thy rapier up.
Come, sir, your passado.
Let's pause right quick because there's a lot happening right away. So, Tybalt is kind of poking fun at Romeo. He calls him a villain, which seems kind of like a lame insult today, but really back in the day, that would be a really mean insult. And Romeo just responds with saying, I'm not a villain. You don't know me. I'm not about that, so just don't worry about it. And then Tybalt again says, oh, this shall not excuse the injuries thou hast done me, i.e. crashing the Capulet party. And he says, therefore, turn and draw. Romeo says, I have never injured thee, and if anything, I love you as tenderly as I love myself. And this is confusing to everyone else on stage because only Romeo at this point on the stage knows about his marriage to Juliet. And so really technically Tybalt and Romeo are related. And as a result, Romeo knows that he has to be kind of loving and kind. He can't just, start a fight with his brand new family member of just that day. So Mercutio, hearing this, is disgusted. And he says, guess what? I'll fight Tybalt. Let's see what happens as a result.
They fight.
Draw, Benvolio, beat down their weapons. Gentlemen, for shame! Forbear this outrage. Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince expressly hath forbid this bandying in Verona streets. Hold, Tybalt! Good Mercutio!
Exit Tybalt with his partisans.
Ah! I am hurt. A plague on both your houses. I am sped. Is he gone, and hath nothing?
What, art thou hurt?
Aye, aye, a scratch. Marry, 'tis enough. Where is my page? Go, villain, fetch a surgeon.
Exit Page.
Courage, man. The hurt cannot be much.
No, 'tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough. 'Twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. I am peppered, I warrant, for this world. A plague of both your houses. Zounds, a dog, a rat, a mouse, a cat to scratch a man to death. A braggart, a rogue, a villain, that fights by the book of arithmetic. Why the devil came you between us? I was hurt under your arm.
I thought all for the best.
Help me into some house, Benvolio, or I shall faint. A plague on both your houses! They have made worm's meat of me. I have it, and soundly, too. Your houses!
Exit Mercutio and Benvolio.
This gentleman, the prince's near ally, my very friend, hath got his mortal hurt in my behalf, my reputation stained with Tybalt's slander. Tybalt, that an hour hath been my kinsman. Oh, sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel.
Re-enter Benvolio.
Oh, Romeo! Romeo!
Let's pause very quick. So, we have Tybalt and Mercutio fight, and you read that correctly, that Tybalt, under Romeo's arm, stabs Mercutio and runs off, realizing what he's done. He has essentially killed Mercutio. Even in Mercutio's death, he is playful, and he kind of starts by saying, Romeo says, "Oh, courage, man, the hurt cannot be much," and Mercutio says, "No, 'tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough, 'twill serve. Ask me for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man." You see this word grave here? It's a pun. He's saying grave in terms of I will be in the grave tomorrow, dead, and also grave meaning serious. And so we know that even though this is not a huge wound, right? It's not as wide as a church door or as deep, but is enough to kill him. And so Mercutio gives arguably his most famous line. He says, "A plague of both your houses, you have made worms meat of me." A plague of both your houses. So, this means basically, curse the Montagues and the Capulets. Their fight has caused this death of me. Romeo, now speaking to himself as he's alone on stage right here, because Mercutio and Benvolio exit, it says, "My friend has received this mortal hurt, and all because of Tybalt's slander." He says, "Tybalt is just an hour my kinsman," and basically saying, "Juliet, your beauty hath made me effeminate," meaning womanly. And he says, "Forget it, I'm gonna fight." And so here comes Benvolio to re-enter.
Brave Mercutio's dead! That gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here did scorn the earth.
This day's black fate on more days doth depend. This but begins the woe others must end.
Here comes the furious Tybalt back again.
Alive in triumph, and Mercutio slain. Away to heaven respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now.
Re-enter Tybalt.
Now, Tybalt, take the villain back again that late thou gavest me. For Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou, or I, or both, must go with him.
Thou, wretched boy, that didst consort him here, shalt with him hence.
This shall determine that.
Let's pause. So Romeo and Tybalt are about to fight, but this line right here, he says, "Alive in triumph and Mercutio slain, away to heaven respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now." Romeo basically says, forget about, thinking I'm just going to fight. Fire-eyed fury be my guide. Is it ever a good idea to lead your actions by your fury and your anger? No. We know that Romeo's not making a good decision because Tybalt has killed Mercutio. What is likely Tybalt's punishment for that? We can assume death. We know that Prince Aeschylus in the first act has promised that if people were caught fighting in the streets again, death would be the punishment. Mercutio's dead. Probably Tybalt would be put to death for the crime. And yet Romeo is going to take it into his own hands? Romeo, you're not thinking. All right, let's see what happens.
They fight. Tybalt falls.
Oh, Tybalt's dead.
Romeo, away, begone! The citizens are up, and Tybalt slain. Stand not amazed, the prince will doom thee death if thou art taken. Hence, begone, away!
Oh, I am fortune's fool.
Why dost thou stay?
Exit Romeo. Enter citizens and company.
Which way ran he that killed Mercutio? Tybalt, that murderer, which way ran he?
There lies that Tybalt.
Up, sir, go with me. I charge thee in the prince's name, obey.
Enter Prince, attended, Montague, Capulet, their wives, and others.
Where are the vile beginners of this fray?
O noble prince, I can discover all the unlucky manage of this fatal brawl. There lies the man, slain by young Romeo, that slew thy kinsman, brave Mercutio.
Tybalt, my cousin, oh, my brother's child. O prince, O husband, O the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman. Prince, as thou art true, for blood of ours, shed blood of Montague. O cousin, cousin.
Benvolio, who began this bloody fray?
Tybalt, here slain, whom Romeo's hand did slay. Romeo that spoke him fair bade him bethink how nice the quarrel was, and urged withal your high displeasure. All this uttered with gentle breath, calm look, knees humbly bowed, could not take truce with the unruly spleen of Tybalt, deaf to peace. But he that tilts with piercing steel at bold Mercutio's breast, who all as hot turns deadly point to point, and with a martial scorn one hand beats cold death aside, and with the other sends it back to Tybalt, whose dexterity retorts it. Romeo, he cries aloud, hold, hold, friends, part! And swifter than his tongue his agile arm beats down their fatal points, and twixt them rushes, underneath whose arm an envious thrust from Tybalt hit the life of stout Mercutio, and then Tybalt fled, but by and by comes back to Romeo, who had but newly entertained revenge, and to it they go like lightning. For ere I could draw to part them was stout Tybalt slain, and as he fell did Romeo turn and fly. This is the truth, or let Benvolio die.
He is a kinsman to the Montague. Affection makes him false, he speaks not true. Some 20 of them fought in this black strife, and all those 20 could but kill one life. I beg for justice, which thou, prince, must give. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live.
Romeo slew him. He slew Mercutio, who now the price of his dear blood doth owe.
Not Romeo, prince. He was Mercutio's friend. His fault concludes but what the law should end, the life of Tybalt.
And for that offence, immediately we do exile him hence. I have an interest in your hate's proceeding. My blood for your rude brawls doth lie a-bleeding. But I'll immerse you with so strong a fine, that you shall all repent the loss of mine. I will be deaf to pleading and excuses. No tears nor prayers shall purchase out abuses. Therefore use none. Let Romeo hence in haste, else where he is found, that hour is his last. Bear hence this body, and attend our will. Mercy but murders, pardoning those that kill.
Exit.
Let's pause right there. All right, so Benvolio says, hey, you just killed Tybalt. You better get out of here. And Romeo immediately says, oh, I am fortune's fool. This is a really famous line that Romeo says, meaning, oh, I just have the worst luck. So Romeo leaves, and then a bunch of citizens come in, and they realize what's happened. And also Prince Aeschylus comes in, and he says, who are the vile beginners of this fray? Benvolio says, I've seen it all. I can tell you the story. And he starts to. And Benvolio, I always tell my students when they read this monologue, this long speech in front of other characters on the stage, I always ask them, do you think that Benvolio gives a fair account of what's happened? We know that Benvolio is cousins with Romeo, so is he really impartial, or is he kind of biased? And usually after reading it a couple times, my students come to the conclusion that they think it's a pretty fair assessment of what's happened. However, is Lady Capulet going to believe that? No, she says he's a kinsman to the Montague, and affection makes him false, meaning that he's not telling the truth. And he says, Romeo has killed Tybalt. Romeo must not live, not realizing that she's talking about her own son-in-law. Okay. And Prince Aeschylus says, yeah, but Romeo slew him, but he slew Mercutio. So now the price of his dear blood doth owe. And so basically Prince Aeschylus is a little bit merciful because he doesn't kill Romeo, but he says, immediately do we exile him hence. And basically meaning that he is now kicked out of Verona. He cannot come back in. And if he does, that hour will be his last, meaning that he will be put to death. And so Romeo is not accused or sentenced to death, but rather exile or banishment. Now, some people think this is really terrible, but I happen to think that this is a pretty good deal. Romeo kills Mercutio, doesn't get put to death for it. Or sorry, Romeo kills Tybalt, doesn't get put to death for it as promised, but rather is simply exiled. It could be a lot worse. I would pick exile over death any day. All right, well, I hope that you guys have a great day and that this was helpful for you in learning about this particular scene, Act 3, Scene 1. Tune in later to learn more. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.